The Veto. The Veto. The Veto. The Veto.
This is their own government doing this to its own people.
This video is also from Homs. Apparently a rocket fired by government forces hit the building.
We're asking for the UN to help us. We're asking for the Arab League to help us. Anyone who's got any kind of humanity in their heart, do something about this.
ماذا يريد مجلس الأمن أكثر من 220 شهيد في الليلة التي غدا سيصدر بها قرار.
I deny categorically and unequivocally all these wrong references to bloodshed and killings taking place in my country the way they are described by the media.
We've seen countless videos of children with broken bodies returned after weeks in detention. We've seen people being shot at as they try to retrieve the dead and wounded bodies of their friends and families on the street. And we've seen protest after protest broken up with tear gas and security forces uniformed and not firing live ammunition to crowds. Are all of these lies?
I have also a countless of other videos showing exactly the opposite. I'm not denying that we have losses of lives over there. I'm saying that we should be objective in our approach while analyzing what's going on in Syria. What's going on in Syria is that we do have an opposition, legitimate national opposition, and we are listening to their claims. But at the same time, we do have armed terrorist groups that are resisting the Syrian forces.
Ceux qui sont contre.
Those against.
Abstention.
Abstentions.
Le projet de résolution.
The draft resolution
n'est pas adopté.
Has not been adopted.
We're not animals. We're human beings. We're asking for help. We're asking for your help.
The vetoes by Russia and China of what was already a watered-down version of a resolution condemning the violence seemed to have emboldened the regime.
How many more chemical attacks do there need to be? How many more children need to wash up on shores or end up covered in dust?
The veto of Russia and China against a UN Security Council resolution condemning Syria and demanding change, he said that itself was a crime against humanity because at the end of the day, the Russians had given a green light to Bashar al-Assad to intensify his crackdown, Suzanne.
But the thousands still there still suffer under the withering attacks of the regime. For CNN, Ian Lee, Cairo.
Anderson, you are biased and taking side, and you shouldn't do that because
I'm taking the side of the truth, and I gotta say, I just think what you're saying, you have not offered any proof.
This is not the truth. I am afraid this is not the truth. You are reporting what somebody told you. This shouldn't be done on CNN.
The Veto.
So now we've just arrived in Damascus, in Syria. In 2011, filmmaker and journalist Rafik Lotev returned to Syria after 16 years in the US with explosive information. He had tracked the plans to foment a revolution in Syria on the Paltalk virtual platform.
The fabrication school, it was in Bab Amr.
Another sovereign nation targeted for regime change by the neocons in Washington, London, Paris, Tel Aviv, Riyadh, Qatar, and Istanbul.
Nobody believed anything can happen in Syria because Syria, it's a non-religion country and we have freedom of religion and we have a lot of good things in Syria. It's make you sure that's nothing can happen in Syria.
Syria, a 7-year war based on lies, the early protests in Syria were infiltrated and manipulated. Some of the poorest communities across Syria were exploited and weaponized. Corporate media in the West disappeared marches in support of President Assad while they focused on the peaceful protests that rapidly descended into mob violence. Organized chaos was the result. People gathered in the mosques on Fridays before taking to the streets to fire freedom bullets and chant peaceful slogans like the Christians to Beirut, the Alawites to the grave. Syrian society is secular. These protests were sectarian in nature from the start.
What I seen, they try to force people to go out to the street to do what they call a protest, or sometimes to pay them money to come out to the street.
يا شباب يا شباب بس ببلش ايه تبلش هيك تبلش هيك راح العالم تسوي لها بوس ايديها ايه تبلش هيك تبلش هيك راح العالم تسوي لها بوس ايديها الجاي مالنيه يروح سيء الجاي مالنيه يروح سيء يلا بس تعال تدخل السياره
The veto.
It's so easy for them to show you there's a big fight in any area in Syria. Just they write on Facebook or they talk through the Paltalk or any program, they give order to the people to tell them that you have to burn tires or you have to make fake shots. So that's enough to let people, they think there's a big fight in that area. But the question is, who giving the order to these people?
Channel 4, manufacturing consent for the UK government's role in the regime change war project in Syria.
نحن قاعدين هون بالمكتب الإعلامي مشان نقدر ننشر الخبر بمصداقية. ما بننشر الخبر طبعا إلا إذا متأكدين منه 100%.
Channel 4 have no issue with the gilding of the lily, the production of staged events by the Free Syrian Army.
Like any good reporter, he wants to be where the action is.
حبيبي همنا كلمة بس شوي نشتغل البيان وكل شيء بباب صباع ليش عم تجيبني لهون من شعل دخني دولاب.
Omar Talawi has just been a little too candid on camera. Sundown, and Omar Talawi is preparing the backdrop for his rooftop report. This is how it appeared on YouTube. As planned, he's gilding the lily. His production team's adding some special effects. The pall of smoke seen rising behind him comes not from a mortar strike, but from an old rubber tire they've set fire to below.
The burning of tires, Hollywood stagecraft brought to Syria by Western media and its star performers, the moderate rebels.
أخي نحن هلا عم نتعرض لقصف إسرائيل لليوم الرابع على التوالي. ما من أي لحظة بنموت مثل ما أنك سمعان أخي هاي القذائف يوميا.
Tonight, Omar Talawi told Channel 4 News they'd embellished because they were desperate.
The veto.
We are not the first victim, actually, of this media. Iraq was a victim, as you know. Libya was, before us, another victim. Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, and other governments also. Zimbabwe, recently speaking, as you know.
Bambuser is a social network site. Reporters use it as a substitute to the TV trolley SNG for sharing a footage on the satellite channels. After the footage is sent to Bambuser site, satellite channels live stream it or save some segments out of it for a later broadcast. Rafiq was watching and recording through Bambuser site what was being prepared and planned between the reporter, the cameraman and the satellite channels throughout the waiting period of the reporter before appearing on the live broadcast.
I seen a live stream from Baba Amr at midnight, but I don't know who's behind this camera. Just I see the night, the dark, and there's a little light. So I was watching for at least 7 to 8 hours.
Baba Amr Homs, setting the scene for the future of propaganda in Syria. At this time, Rafiq doesn't know what is going to happen or why the camera has been set up in this position. The door opens and somebody enters the room where the camera is. Rafiq's curiosity is aroused. Who is in the room and what are they waiting for? As Rafiq watched the live stream, one question arose. Why was the camera set up in this position and who set it up?
In the morning time, I seen smoke start to come up. I know at that time that something happened.
Something major was happening, and as the smoke rises into the morning sky, the long-awaited event seems to be unraveling as Rafiq is watching. It is clear that whoever set up the camera must have known what was about to transpire.
After 2 hours and a half, somebody came back and he fixed the camera to the right position.
The smoke converges and expands. The drama unfolds in front of our eyes, and the camera captures every moment perfectly.
After 4 to 5 hours, some people, they came back to the same place where they put the camera. And one of them, he was sick, he's coughing. And there is a woman, she's asking him if he's need a doctor. Her accent was American.
The door opens and people enter the room. Someone is coughing.
I'm going to film out that too. Do you want him to take it down first? If he doesn't mind, yeah.
I follow which channel they use this report. I couldn't find. For 1 month I tried to find, I couldn't find. Then I was checking on the internet, on YouTube, Then I find who is behind this camera.
Rafiq had shown the Bambuser raw footage on Syria TV, but he was still trying to identify the English-speaking media team whose voices he had heard on film. His investigations led him to the CNN documentary 72 Hours Under Fire, which was released in March 2012. The billowing smoke was familiar, and after watching the documentary, Rafiq was convinced that the mystery voices belonged to CNN correspondent Arwa Damon and her team, but he needed proof.
The bombardment started, and at one point there was a different kind of explosion or a different kind of noise, and I thought that was odd. It lasted a little bit longer, and I thought perhaps it was 2 or 3 impacts coming at the same time or in short succession. A little while later it happened again. It wasn't until the 3rd time it happened that I suddenly realized what it was, and it was thunder, but mixed in with the explosions. It was just a different experience, and it brought a smile to my face lying there that sort of in the darkness.
One of the biggest accomplishments for the media team here was getting up a live stream so that they could show the world exactly what was happening in real time. This is one of the live cameras that they had set up outside.
Rafiq wondered if this was the camera that had produced the footage that he had studied.
Cut off the live camera, someone shouts. They have discovered our position.
We see events unravel exactly as Rafiq envisaged. After filming the dramatic fire, Damon's media team returned to the room where their conversations had been recorded, but he still did not have the final proof.
I'm going to film out that too. Do you want him to take it down first? If he doesn't mind, yeah. ممكن؟ بس شوي لناخذ كم لقطة.
They turn off the camera for a while, and then after that they start the camera again.
One month later, Rafiq found a CNN report featuring Arwa Damon, where they used a segment of the Bambuser footage during the report. The CNN production process will crop the image, but it's clear it is taken from Rafiq's archived Bambuser footage. Zoom out to reveal the full picture on Bambuser. Arwa Damon recycled the same Bambuser footage in another later CNN report taken from the segment before the camera had been turned off. This clearly identifies Damon and her team as the voices speaking in the camera room.
Well, that smoke you're seeing rising is from an oil pipeline that is believed to have been hit. What we heard was 3 explosions at around 6:30 in the morning. Shortly thereafter, that thick plume of black smoke began covering the skyline here. Following that, at around 7:30 in the morning, began the sustained bombardment various sounds of artillery being fired, impacting here, as well as sporadic heavy automatic machine gun fire. Yesterday morning, activists were saying that they counted around 55 explosions in just the span of 15 minutes.
Our 55 explosions in 15 minutes works out to be almost 4 per minute on average.
Explosions that were not heard on the Bambuser footage. In fact, nothing interrupted the birdsong.
The Veto.
Free Syrian Army fighter, claiming the Syrian government has bombed and that there are children killed over there.
وهذا شو هذا من شو هذا هيك؟ اجا الصاروخ يا الله! ضربونا صاروخ وطلع كل البنايات صواريخ. طلع لي طلع. وهاي شو الدخلة هاي يا عم؟ هاي الدخلة ضربوا الانبوب تبع النفط. صاروخ. هذا الصاروخ عم ضربه ما خلى بيت ما خلى شغلي ما خلى اولاد محصورين جوا هنيك. يا شو هاي شو هالسيارة جاي من هيك يا عم شو هاي؟ هاي محصورين يا عمي محصورين. يا الله استعين. يا الله يا الله يا رب روح.
We see more victims laughing. Another victim falls to the ground, claiming his heart has stopped, but he's laughing. We see Free Syrian Army fighters carrying children, but we don't see their parents.
وينه؟ قرب رايد قرب. ايه نروح انت ركضنا هنيك يلا. هو شو الكباريت خذها.
We just see this guy, he's carrying a kid and running. And now we see him behind the camera.
A tour of other media channels, who also reported this event, reveals the uniform dissemination of an elaborate war theatre production as news. Al Jazeera are filming from a nearby building. A mine has been planted in the ground under the building and detonated to give the impression of an airstrike, in the Al Jazeera report.
خط البترول في حي باب عمر. نحن لا نقدر نوصل إلى هذه المنطقة. يوجد عائلات في نحن لا نقدر نوصل إلى هذه المنطقة. يوجد عائلات في الكامل.
Despite all these theatrics captured on Bambuser, the strangely unperturbed Al Jazeera reporter claims that they are under attack by the Syrian Arab army. The infamous Danny Abdeldayem is also present during the same event. He witnesses the drama from another angle. Danny is accompanied by an armed fighter from the Free Syrian Army, whom he later introduces as a civilian, but only after he has removed his militant jacket.
This is one of the civilians that lives in Bab Amr. الأنبوب هلا خط الغاز والنفط. ضربوا الأمن. That's a pipeline. That's the petrol line at the ضربوا الأمن security forces that shot. قذيفة هاوين.
According to Danny, the pipeline was hit by a Syrian army mortar bomb or tank shell.
It's funny. This guy, one time you see him driving a tank on CNN, and other time you see him as a witness.
Al Arabiya claim attacks by the Syrian Air Force, another variation on the theme.
هذه الطائرات بدأت القذائف والصواريخ ما أدى إلى انفجار هذا الأنبوب.
This video was provided by people living in Baba Amr during this time in 2012. It shows that civilians flocked to the deliberately flooded oil ducts to steal the oil, just before it was set alight. Where are the multiple attacks described by CNN's Arwa Damon?
هذا الذهب الأسود.
We visited the location of the blazing oil pipes in January 2018.
Yeah. They make a holes with this pipe, and they fill this river with oil, then they burn it.
This was not a Syrian army attack. It was a fabricated event.
To get to the upper floors, you really have to hug the wall because there's one window that's exposed, but...
Back in the media house, Arwa Damon hugs the wall to avoid Syrian Arab Army snipers. What she fails to tell her audience is at this point the Syrian Arab Army is positioned on the outskirts of Baba Amr and would not be able to snipe this area, which was fully occupied by the Free Syrian Army.
Arwa Damon, she's making a show. She was safe all the time. She's doing this to let people think she's a superwoman.
It's incredible. How could people do something like this?
The Veto.
The Western media has played a very negative role in the war on Syria, and it costs us many lives, but it costs the West a lot as well. It costs the Western media its credibility. I don't think intelligent people now sit in front of CNN or BBC and take what they say for granted. I think now we have many questions about anything they put on TV, because we saw for ourselves how fabrications are being put on their TVs.
The Western media might be independent, internally speaking, domestically speaking, but not when it is related to the international relationship.
Dani Abdeldaim, he worked for CNN too, and he was the biggest liar because he fabricated a lot of things in Homs, and he tried to make fake shots to let people think that's the Syrian army, they are shooting at him or in that area.
Dani Abdeldaim, relaxed in a war zone, waiting to report for CNN. Dani tells us he is cold. He asks for a bed. The cameraman is feeding him his lines. The buildings are destroyed. They're pulling out the bodies. Dani asks if they got the target ready. He gives the instruction to shoot.
طلع الكاميرا الكاميرا طلع الكاميرا الكاميرا.
All this time, Dani is not under attack. After being on hold for 25 minutes, Dani goes live. On the left is the Bambuser live stream footage. On the right is the CNN official report.
What's been happening, right? They've been bombarding an area in Homs called Khadi for like 3 hours. They've been bombarding with mortar bombs and tank shells, T-72 tank shells. Now we've got about 200 dead all around Homs. There's still people underneath the destruction. We can't move them. There's still civilians under the destruction of buildings. We can't get them out. We're trying to get medication in there and food in there, and we can't get them in. The snipers are shooting at us. I'm in Baba Amr now.
So how random is this mortar fire? I mean, are you saying that they're just indiscriminately firing mortars into neighborhood?
In the cities, in the narrow civilian streets, on rooftops. I just went an hour ago. I just went on a rooftop to get civilians. The street is right next to me, like 400 meters right over there. I went and picked up 4 civilians who were burning in their house. A mortar bomb came right on the rooftop of a civilian house. We smuggle the wounded, we smuggle the dead bodies into the area I'm in now, which is Baba Amr, which is protected by the Free Army, but the Free Army hasn't got that heavy artillery. All they have are Kalashnikovs.
After Rafiq had exposed Danny's fake news report on Syria TV, CNN's Anderson Cooper invited Danny into the studio to explain what had happened to their viewers.
Denny, Syrian state television, as you know, is now airing excerpts of this video of you that was shot. I'm not sure how they got this video. Do you know how they got it? Did they intercept it?
While I was trying to talk to CNN, I was online for like 20 minutes, so it's live broadcast. I don't know how they got it. This is all private. See, this has all been deleted. We have to delete all this stuff.
If Danny is doing the right things, why these files should be deleted and why it's private?
Say at one point, and I'm going to show this, they say that you were saying, get the target ready to shoot. Right. No, shoot it like I'm telling you. Let's take a look.
لا اضرب. طلع الكاميرا. الكاميرا.
And then the banner in Arabic says, notice the sound of an explosion after he gave the order. They're making it seem like you were fabricating the sound of explosion.
Yes, okay. If you exactly watch it was about 6 minutes I was talking to you actually on CNN that time. There was no shooting going on at the time. So if I was telling him to shoot so I can make it look like there's a war going on, there would be shooting on the back sound while I was talking to you.
The problem here is ask him, did you get the target ready? Shoot. Why he's saying shoot? Why Anderson he didn't ask this question?
They said the sound of the bang there was the sound of you guys faking a shot.
That was the sound a long way ago. Even at the time, the area I was sitting in wasn't even being hit. They were hitting another area, as I told you, it was called Khaldi. It's about 15 kilometers away from where I am. 15 kilometers away from where I am.
When he asked him, he told him there is nothing happening in that area when we was there. And it was far, at least 15 kilometers. And in the report, what he said? He said, it's right next to me, 200 to 400 meters.
In the cities, in the narrow civilian streets, on rooftops. I just went, an hour ago, I just went on a rooftop to get civilians. The street is right next to me, like 400 meters right over there. I went and picked up 4 civilians.
I want to play another part of this, of their tape. Your cameraman is saying, say there that shells fell and we are pulling bodies. Let's take a look. The banner there says even the cameraman is lying. What was happening there?
Look, as any journalist works, as anyone who's trying to work, it isn't just me, all the reporters inside, they tell us, you have to say this. This is actually what's going on. I don't know everything that's going on in there. They get the information, how many people have been killed. So I'm not really a reporter. They remind me, don't forget to say this. Tell them we have people dead, people underneath the destruction, so I don't forget.
Danny just said he is not a reporter. He is being fed unverified information. CNN is using this information in their reports with no verification. This is not journalism. It is not even activism. It is distortion and manipulation.
You said you had left, I believe in the video, because you and I are about to talk in this video, you said you had actually left the area that was being under attack.
Right, I left it. No, I tried to go there. I said I tried to go there. I was there 2 hours ago.
Okay.
We had to leave and they were shooting at us way out, way in. No one could get in there.
Danny told him in the report that he'd been in Al Khaldiyah before 1 hour, and now he's telling him he never been there. Okay, if you never been there, how come the cameraman he's telling you, tell him the building is destroyed and we are pulling the bodies?
The Syrian state TV is claiming, besides the lie that Danny works for CNN, is that he was faking the sound of gunfire or shelling. Now, you heard Danny mention that if you look at the interview we actually did that we aired on CNN with him that night, you don't hear any gunfire in the background. We went back, we watched the nearly 7-minute interview, and he's actually correct. There is no firing in the background.
Anderson Cooper makes the claim that no shooting was heard in Danny's report. But if we re-watch, we do hear shooting throughout.
Water pumps and tank shells, tanks T-72s. In the first half an hour, we've got about 200 dead all around Homs. There's still people underneath the destruction that are sitting and discussing while we're just sitting here and getting killed. Snipers were shooting at me. I'm in Baba Amr now. Yeah.
That means not only Danny he is lying, Anderson Cooper also he's lying.
They also say that you are basically have been paid by CNN.
Yeah.
That's categorically untrue. Just for the record,
of course,
have you ever worked for CNN? Have you ever received any money from CNN?
I have not received 1 penny for CNN. I am not a CNN journalist.
One of the frustrating things as a reporter is that, and for this we blame the Syrian regime, is we've repeatedly tried to go to homes, to get into Syria, to get visas, to do it the proper way, and they were repeatedly refusing. So, unlike in many conflicts, we have ended up relying on people like you, on people who have uploaded these videos, and though we can't independently verify them.
Of course.
Anderson, you are biased and taking side, and you shouldn't do that because
I'm taking the side of the truth, and I got to say, I just think what you're saying, you have not offered any proof.
This is not the truth. I am afraid this is not the truth. You are reporting what somebody told you. This shouldn't be done on CNN.
Unlike in many conflicts, we have ended up relying on people like you, on people who have uploaded these videos, and though we can't independently verify them,
of course,
the reason we are relying on these videos is because of the Syrian regime's refusal to allow outside observers in.
You are reporting what somebody told you. This shouldn't be done on CNN.
Anderson Cooper said the government, they don't give visa and they don't allow them to come here. And the question is, how come Arwa Damon, before she go to Baba Amr, she get proof and the government, they allowed her to come with her team?
She joins us now from the capital. What is the mood? What's the picture there, Arwa?
The familiar Western journalist visa denied Kennard from CNN. In fact, the Syrian government had approved a visa for Arwa Damon many times before 2012. The following report from Damon was broadcast from inside Damascus.
Okay, I wanted to get this message out a long time ago. It's to all the European countries and the Arab countries. Just let us know. You're either going to help us or you're not. They're leaving us stuck in the middle. They're always saying, we're going to do this, and no, we're not. Either tell us you're going to help us, or say, no, you're on your own, just let us know what we are going to do. We're going to die, or you're going to help us. Stop saying we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Let us know what we are going to do, what our path is.
CNN have attempted to erase elements of interviews with Danny, but unsuccessfully. Independent YouTube accounts have downloaded these interviews in full and added Arabic subtitles. CNN have removed many such reports from their website. Why?
The Veto.
We built some kind of strong credibility, even among those who targeted us from the beginning. It happened to me, for instance, personally speaking, many times after delivering my statement or my speech before the General Assembly or the Security Council. Many ambassadors of countries hostile to the Syrian government came to me and congratulated me on the content of my statement and said to me, sorry, Mr. Ambassador, we are taking such a profile, hostile profile towards your government and your country, but indeed we know the truth. We know that the story is totally different. In some cases, representatives from Arab hostile governments came to me. Some of them were members of the Security Council. They came to me and apologized. Mr. Ambassador, we are sorry. We know that what we are telling before the Security Council is not accurate, but this is life.
أخبرنا عن الواقع الآن، هل ما زال القصف مستمرا في هذه الأحياء؟ يبدو أننا نسمع الجواب مباشرة. هل أنت في مكان آمن؟ سيد خالد أبو صلاح.
سيدتي حتى الآن لم يهدأ القصف عن حي الخالدية. لقد
One of the most important channels they worked against Syria was Al Jazeera, and they used Khalid Abu Salah in Homs to work for them. Khalid Abu Salah, he fabricated a lot of stories and a lot of things in Baba Amr, and they used to work together, he and Danny. And I remember when I was watching them on the bomb user, I seen Khalid Abu Salah, he was give a sign to the people over there to shoot and to try to show the people that there is a big fight in that area.
Just as with Danny, we see Abu Salah and his team discussing the numbers of dead they should report. No fact-checking, simply which number has most impact. Just as with Danny, there is no conflict in the area. Abu Salah is also waiting to go live for CNN.
يا أخي أحكي صوت وصورة وأحكي عن الشيء عم يصير. ما عاد فيني يا أبو اليمان القذائف يا أبو اليمان القذائف عم تسقط بالشوارع. أنا أفكر إيه يا أبو طيب ما نسمع صوت القصف يا أبو اليمان؟ ما نسمع صوت القصف؟ عم يضربوا بالهاون بالمدفعية. عم يضربوا بالهاون بالمدفعية.
Abu Salah signal to shoot is obvious for those with eyes to see. A shadowy figure enters the building before the shots ring out from inside the building.
عن ماذا يريد أن يتحدث الإنسان؟ والنظام يمطرنا في باب عمر وفي الإنشاءات وفي باب السباع والخالدية في قذائف الهون والمدفعية. عن ماذا يريد أن يتحدث الإنسان يا سيدتي الكريمة؟
طيب يعني أخبرنا عن الواقع الآن، هل ما زال القصف مستمرا في هذه الأحياء؟ يبدو أننا نسمع الجواب مباشرة. هل أنت في مكان آمن؟ سيد خالد أبو صلاح.
سيدتي حتى الآن لم يهدأ القصف عن حي الخالدية. لقد سيدتي أسمع أصوات إطلاق رصاص لا أستطيع أن أسمعك جيدا. سيدتي الكريمة حتى الآن لم يهدأ القصف على أحياء حمص، حتى الآن لا توجد أمثلة نهائية للشهداء. هناك مجزرة مرجعة في حي الخالدية.
Al Jazeera said it's live from Al Khaldiyeh, but the truth, Khalid Abu Salah, he never been in Al Khaldiyeh, Danny Abdel Daim, he never go to Al Khaldiyeh, and both of them, they are lying.
Was the uptick in propaganda a coincidence? Just as Russia and China were vetoing a UN Security Council resolution demanding that the Syrian president step down, Channel 4 was correct. The rebels were desperate to influence decisions on behalf of their sponsors in the US regime change coalition.
The Veto.
If you look at the current situation right now, you would see that there is an attempt of interfering into the domestic affairs of Iran, Venezuela, Ecuador, as well as other countries, as you know. Even Russia, even Iran, through what they call sanctions, illegitimate sanctions. So the war is open, actually, and there is a huge degree of tension in the international relationship. That would create some kind of incentives of the public opinion in the world to wake up finally and to realize that something wrong is taking place, because the humanity wouldn't afford a new war. Any new war, generalized war, would means the end of the world.
حي بابا عمر إحدى القناص المتواجدة في هذا الحي في حي بابا عمر.
You can see here they bring someone from what they call the Free Syrian Army to use him as a sniper, to let people think that's the Syrian army, they are shooting the people.
نحن الآن نلتقي مع إحدى عناصر الجيش الحر في حي بابا عمر.
نحن من حي أهل بابا عمر الأبطال والشجعان اللي صمدوا هالصمود يعني القوي كثير.
إحدى القناص المتواجدة في هذا الحي في حي بابا عمر، ورغم على صوت الله أكبر في هذا الحي.
That's the same sniper, but this time you can see him between what they call the Free Syrian Army.
The Veto.
Khalid Abu Salah, he did the same thing in the hospital, or what they call a hospital in Baba Amr. So they bring some people and they try to show that there are some of them, you know, he have injuries, some of them he have a broke arm or wherever, and they drew some bloods, and they bring one kid and they teach her what does she have to say against the president, against the wife of the president, against the government.
هذه هي نغم الصغيرة، ألا ينظر العالم إلى هذه الطفلة الصغيرة؟ ما ذنبها؟ أن تستشهد أختها. يا عم نغم اللي قتلوا أختي.
الله يرفعك يا بشار، تشفيك يا رب العالمين. الله يرفعك، الله يحرمك أولادك يا رب يا بشار مثل ما حرمتيني الأختين.
War to save the children. Children have been exploited throughout the Syrian conflict to promote war to kill more children.
أي شيء. طبعا النزف ما زال مستمرا.
يعني مشط القدم كله مفتت نهائيا.
المشط كله مفتت. تماما. في بابا عمر لا نستطيع أن نفعل له أي شيء ولا نستطيع أن نخلق مشاكل أخرى.
Same like Danny, you can see the cameraman, he's teaching a doctor what he's supposed to say.
Khalid Abu Salah, an Al Jazeera stringer, inside a house that had been converted into what appears to be a makeshift clinic.
حالك أبضاك؟
الحمد لله رب العالمين. أبو شيء أمشي
يقولوا والله لا يوفقك يا بشار تتكلم اختي الصغيرة شو بتقولوا؟
This footage is from Bambuser before the live report on Al Jazeera. The victims on screen are being rehearsed. Are you smart or not? The director asks a small child, her head swaddled in bandages. Naham is given her lines. She must insult President Assad and his wife. A child is being schooled to hate with words she does not understand.
وجه كلمة لمرت بشار إنه الله
معلش هذا العمل أهم من عمل الجراحة.
ولا ينفعك يا بشار تشفيك رب العالمين. الله يوفقك، الله يحرمك أولادك يا مرتو يا بشار مثل ما حرمتيني الأختين. الله أكبر عليك يا بشار.
What did we do for you to treat us like this? This little girl asks, her head bandaged after injuries to her eye. We can't tell if she's being prompted to speak out against the Assad regime, but the pain and misery emanating from Syria is echoed in various videos posted to YouTube.
We're not animals, we're human beings, we're asking for help. We're asking for your help.
This clip also from Homs, a child whose leg has been blown off.
Look, the same lies you see it on Al Jazeera, you see it on CNN too, with the same people. That means who controls CNN, he controls Al Jazeera.
The veto.
Honestly, practically speaking, the council is not implementing and the policy enshrined in the charter, which is maintaining peace and security. How could the Security Council maintain the peace and security in the world while demolishing Libya, while demolishing Iraq, disintegrating Libya, targeting Syria from within and as well as from outside? So this is not about maintaining peace and security. This is representing the impacts of the influence of the influential states within the Security Council on the decision-making mechanism.
تستفيق حمص هذا الصباح على وقع حادث مروع آخر في حيي كرم الزيتون والعدوية، فعشرات الجثث التي عثر عليها تروي فظاعة ما وقع في المدينة المنكوبة التي لا زالت مسرحا لعمليات عسكرية يشنها الجيش السوري النظامي على ما يقول إنها عصابات مسلحة.
يقتلون يا أخي، يقتلون بدم بارد. هذه مجازر مروعة تحصل، هذه وصمة عار على جميع الجامعة العربية وعلى كل إنسان يدعي الإنسانية في هذا الزمان.
Is that this was a massacre that was carried out at the hands of government forces and Shabiha.
Well, but both sides are saying that the other is responsible.
أنا من ناشئ المجلس الأمني، حظر طيران سريع مباشرة، حظر طيران واجب وضروري جدا.
When I heard about the massacre, right away I checked on the Bambuser. Voice and picture was cutting at that time. I took the film and I used a special program to connect the voice to know what's going on. I heard shooting.
شهداء يوميا شهداء.
I asked myself at that time, from where the shooting? It was too close. I've seen they are trying to hide something because they put two covers, then they drag the other one. The blood's still coming out. Then I understand they are killing the people outside, then they bring them inside.
So when we consider the 7 years of war, how the propaganda started in 2011 and how it is today, what is very important for us to recognize is that the level of fabrication, the use particularly of children in this fabrication.
The Veto.
It never came to my mind at any time, even in the worst moments of 2011, that Syria was shaking or going to lose the war. I always believed that we will have the upper hand over this international war of terror because we are not newcomers to the international diplomacy. We live in the kitchen in New York, so we know what is the menu. From the beginning, we knew what would be the menu, and thanks God we were able to choose what we want to eat. And we were able to reject what our enemies wanted us to eat.
They were not able to destroy Syria the way they wanted to destroy it. They were not able to put the government they want, the system they want, to change the system in one sentence, to change the independence of decision making. They wanted puppets. So in this sense, Syria is independent. Syria has kept its independent decision. Syria has proved that it was able to defeat terrorism. It was able to liberate most of its land, and hopefully we will liberate every inch of our land in the near future. And we proved to the world that despite all this coalition, despite billions of dollars, despite all the work they put, we, the small people of Syria, were able to defeat them all because we are right and because we are defending our land and our country.
Now that includes Omran. And what strikes me is we shed tears, but there are no tears here. He doesn't cry once. That little boy is in total shock. He's stunned inside his home one moment and the next, lost in the flurry and the fury of war and chaos.
Omran was exploited. Why no tears of joy from CNN when he was discovered alive and happy and perfectly safe with his family in Aleppo after liberation by the Syrian Arab Army? While Western media accused the Syrian government of this attack on Omran, his father was demanding proof from the terrorist groups, proof that was never shown to him.
أنا كنت في قلب البيت وجتني الضربة. إيش مصدرها؟ إيش منين؟ إيش ما عرفت. شغلة تانية، أنا طلبت من الإعلاميين اللي كانوا موجودين هنيك والمسلحين يطالعوا آثار البقايا، مثلا الصاروخ أو الضربة اللي عم بدعوها أي شيء، يطالعوا البقايا مشان أعرف إيش بدي أحكي معهم، على أساسها نصرح، ورفضوا يطالعوا أي شيء.
Omran is now a well-balanced, relaxed child. He escaped the Western war lobby propaganda mill. Others have not been so fortunate.
وقت اللي أخذوا عمران مشان يسعفوه، قبل ما يسعفوه حطوه عم بصوروه، لأن اليوم الصورة وقت اللي عم بصورها في عليها ثمن. اللقطة اللي بتشتغل بالعاطفة على العاطفة هي لها ثمن. في منهم عم بيشتغلوا مع بعض بهالأمر بين الصحافة وقبعات البيت. هالصورة ليش؟ هالصورة هي عبارة مشان يتاجروا في دمه، أنه اللي هو تصوب وهو انضرب وإصابته ثقيلة والحمد لله إصابته هو خفيفة. يعني هالتجارة بهالأمر وبدون ما ياخذوا إذني وبدون ما يقولوا لي وبدون ما يكون لي أي خبر.
I don't think now they need someone like Arwa or Dani or Khalid Abu Salah. They need people more experienced. They know how to lie. They know how to fabricate things. And they already exist something like that.
They call the white helmets. Look at her, she's clean, and the doll still in her hand.
Battles were fabricated. Empty buildings were mined and fired upon to produce the spine-tingling battle scenes relayed to the world by Western corporate media. People have been fed a distorted version of events in Syria for 7 years. This conflict has been maintained by propaganda on an unprecedented scale. Created in March 2013 in Turkey and Jordan, the White Helmets are promoted and financed by the same nations who desire regime change in Syria. They are embedded exclusively with terrorist factions in Syria. The White Helmets are a propaganda factory for the West. According to Syrian civilians, they do not rescue civilians. They leave them under the rubble to die. Described by many as Nusra Front with a facelift, their productions feature endless child rescues. Nobody ever questions where these children come from. Where are their parents? We have been hypnotized into not questioning what we see. We need to start looking more closely at the cropped and edited images that are designed to take us to war.
Now, and after all the work what Rafiq Lutuf did and Vanessa Bailey did and all the respectable journalists in the world did about the White Helmets, there's no doubt at all that the White Helmets are like ISIS, like ISIL, like Jabhat al-Nusra, being used by certain countries, by certain powers, in order to instigate terrorism in Syria and in order to achieve political objectives through the use of terrorism. This is an absolute fact. You know, we can't go through all what happened during the war, although you did in your film investigate and correct many of the incidents which appeared on CNN and others. But in fact, we need probably 10 films or 20 films to correct all what has been circulated and promoted, which was sheer propaganda and absolutely irrelevant to the reality of what has taken place in Syria.
We watch very carefully the Iraqi case and the Libyan case. So we didn't allow them to repeat with us the same mistakes.
So we have to ask ourselves, how much of what you've been told about Syria is true? How much of it is a fabrication? And to what extent have children been exploited to promote this war that has effectively caused the deaths of so many children inside Syria?
The veto.
If we didn't have these strong allies using their vetoes against conspiracies concocted by the Western delegations in the Council, the situation would have been much, much worse than what we have seen so far.
وإلى كل طاغية وعلى رأسهم أمريكا ولمن لف لفهم ودار في فلكهم.
When they say that Russia has come into Syria in 2015, I say no, Russia and China started playing the role in 2011, and had it not been for that, probably we would have faced a very, very difficult reality in Syria.
The people we are fighting today, we funded.
Only Russia and China used to take a strong position defending the Syrian government. Nowadays we have 6, 7 countries in the Council. Either they vote against draft resolutions targeting the Syrian government, or they abstain. And they make strong statements saying, for instance, after years of denial of the existence of terrorism in Syria, many countries in the Council now, when they make their speeches, they say the Syrian government has said something very important about the phenomenon of international terrorism, for instance. Why don't we listen to what they are saying? Why don't we double check whether what they are saying is accurate or not? This kind of language didn't exist in 2011 or 2012. There was a total denial of the phenomenon of international terrorism. Nowadays, they compete with each other on who would focus more on combating and fighting international terrorism. That means we won the war.
I would like to say to each and every member of Security Council that when you put your hand up, you should think of the souls of children, and women, and people, of the innocent souls you are affecting. And you should ask yourself, are you putting your hand up in order to make peace more possible? Or are you putting your hand up in order to make the killing of people easier? It is a huge moral responsibility on the conscience of those who are members of the Security Council, and not to engage in hypocritical phrases and speeches which mean nothing to people who who are facing wars and who are facing terrorism. What means to us is the real stand, the honest stand, the transparent stand. That is what is important for us. And we are at a point in time where no one can mislead the other. If they think that the speeches and acting as if one is acting in Hollywood is going to convince people that they are on the right side of history, it no longer works. Small children in the most distant village in Syria know exactly what's going on. So please do not try to be smart, and do not think yourself smarter than others. People who live on the ground and who suffer what they are suffering are smarter than anybody, because it's their lives that are at stake.
Syria has been battered by 7 years of a brutal war it did not create. Syria has survived a war that has decimated infrastructure and laid waste to its history and heritage. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been lost, the vast majority from the Syrian Arab Army, which is the Syrian people. Yet this wave of internationally financed and armed terrorism will also threaten our own communities if it is not contained. Our governments have created and promoted a monster which Syria and her allies have given their lives to destroy. Our national security has been defended by Syria against the criminal intent of our own rogue states. Syria is rising from the blood of her people, bloodshed that has been enabled by the revolution illusion sold to us by corporate media in the West. Questioning these manufactured narratives is the only way to end this conflict and to allow Syrians to breathe, to survive, and to rebuild their shattered lives. Syria needs you.
They destroyed a lot. They destroyed our infrastructure. They destroyed our school. They destroyed our pipeline. They stole our history. They stole our most precious monuments. So there is a huge amount of work that needs to be done. We have also a lost generation of the war. We have children who were 7 and now they are 15. And those people need social work, psychological work, educational work. I don't know what destroying a pipeline has to do with people's rights. I don't know what destroying factories, what stealing Palmyra, stealing today, they are stealing the castle of Sarmad. They stole monuments from Idlib, from Aleppo. This is our history. This is our identity that they are stealing. And this is extremely sad for us. It needs a huge amount of work on the local level, on the regional level, on the international level, in order to restore Syria, hopefully, to a country that is better than what it was, and to give the world an example that if people decide to be free, independent, nobody can conquer them. Nobody can conquer them.
We wanted the UN to help, which they didn't. We wanted the UN to take the case from the beginning, which they didn't. They took it and they did nothing about it.
What about the United States?
They can help. Who take help from anyone? Israel. We don't care.
What do you think is going to stop the regime at this point? I mean, anything?
An attack.
VETO! I'm not talking now as a journalist. I'm talking as a Syrian citizen, because I'm born in this country and I love this country. Please stop lying. Stop killing. Stop doing this to my country. You know why? Because at the end, we are the real veto. We are the real veto.
أستاذ رفيق، أنا رافقتك بكثير من مقابلاتك الإعلامية خلال الحرب وبالأيام الصعبة، خصوصا في حمص مدينتي. وأنا بعتقد أنه العمل يلي قمت فيه هو العمل الذي يجب أن يقوم به الإعلام الحقيقي.
والله جميل، مهم، متعوب عليه جدا، وعجبني انه بالانجليزي لانه نحن بدنا نوصل للرأي العام الغربي.
أحد أسباب نجاح الإعلام الغربي هو عدم قدرتنا للنفاذ إلى ذلك الإعلام.
فأنت معناتها نجحت في أنك نقلت المعركة إلى صفوفهم هن.
أي عمل تحقيقي، عمل يتأكد من الكلمة، من المعلومة، من المشهد قبل أن يبث أي شيء على التلفزيون.
وأكثر من هيك سأعرض لك الفيلم داخل الأمم المتحدة.
The true revolution does not only come out of the mosques carrying a Wahhabism, Salafi, Takfiri thoughts. It should include university, culture center, and national parties, which did not happen in Syria. I was born in Syria, and I love Syria. So I say to those people who supporting the white helmets, please stop lying, stop killing, stop doing this to my country. You will reach nowhere. You know why? Because in the end, we are the real veto.
The Veto.